targeting computer chimed its confirmation, and Captain Vector felt his crest flare with satisfaction. The vessel hung in the void before them, white hull gleaming against the starfield, marked with the curious red cross symbol that human medical ships displayed so prominently. It was alone, unescorted, perfect. "All systems confirm, Captain," his second officer reported, mandibles clicking with anticipation. "No weapons signatures, minimal shielding, standard civilian drives." Vector leaned back in his command throne, running one clawed hand along the armrest. 15 cycles he had hunted these shipping lanes, and never had fortune smiled so broadly. A human ship, wealthy beyond measure with their advanced medical technologies, and not a single warship within 3 parsecs. "The humans are fools," he said, loud enough for the bridge crew to hear. "They mark their treasure ships with bright colors and send them out alone, expecting predators to simply ignore them because of some primitive code of honor." His crew chittered their agreement. They were Zendari, a proud warrior species reduced to piracy after their homeworld's economic collapse. They had no use for the soft morality of the wealthier races. Credits were credits, and that medical frigate represented enough technology to fund their operations for a standard year. "Bring us alongside," Vector ordered. "Prepare boarding parties. Remember, we want the cargo intact. Try not to damage the medical equipment." The pirate vessel, a modified cargo hauler with jury-rigged weapons, closed the distance. Vector watched the medical ship with growing confidence. It made no attempt to flee. It didn't even power up its pathetic shields. The fools were probably hoping their symbols would protect them. "Hailing them now, Captain," his communications officer announced. "They're responding." "Put it through." The view screen flickered, and a human face appeared. The creature looked young by their standards, with dark skin and darker eyes that studied the bridge with unsettling intensity. The human wore a white uniform, with the same red cross emblazoned on the shoulder. They appeared utterly calm. "This is Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen of the UHMS Nightingale," the human said, voice level and professional. "You are approaching a protected medical vessel operating under the Geneva Convention and Galactic Medical Neutrality Accords. Break off your approach immediately." Vector laughed, a rasping sound that echoed through the bridge. "Or what, human? You have no weapons, no shields. You are alone in the void, and my patience grows thin. Surrender your ship, and we may allow you to leave in an escape pod." The human's expression didn't change. "This is your final warning. The Nightingale is a medical frigate, crewed by combat medics of the Terran Marine Corps. We are protected by treaty, and any act of piracy against this vessel will be met with appropriate defensive measures." "Combat medics?" Vector's crest fluttered with amusement. "Doctors playing soldier? You humans and your absurdities." He made a gesture and cut the transmission. "Attach docking clamps. Begin breach protocols." The operation proceeded smoothly. Too smoothly, perhaps, but Vector dismissed the whisper of unease. His boarding teams were experienced. 23 raiders in full combat armor, armed with plasma rifles and neural stunners, against a crew of what, maybe 30 humans? Medical personnel, soft and weak from years of studying injuries rather than causing them? The docking umbilical sealed with a heavy thunk. His lead team began cutting through the airlock. "First team reports they're through, Captain," his second officer announced. "No resistance at the breach point. They're advancing into the ship now." Vector monitored the tactical display, watching the blue markers of his boarding parties spread through the medical frigate's corridors. The ship's layout was standard for a medical vessel, easy to navigate. Cargo holds filled with equipment, medical bays, crew quarters, and the bridge. Simple. First team to Cargo Bay Alpha. The squad leader's voice crackled over the comm. We have visual on the medical supplies. Captain, the manifest wasn't lying. This is a fortune in regeneration chambers and trauma kits. We're going to need additional. The transmission cut off. Vectar's crest flattened. First team, report. Silence. Second team, what is your position? Approaching Medical Bay 2, Captain. We just passed crew quarters and saw no sign of the humans. The ship seems almost empty. A sound came through the comm then. Something Vectar had never heard before. It was a scream, but not of fear. It was rage and pain twisted together. The sound of a Zendari warrior experiencing agony beyond comprehension. Then, another scream, and another, overlapping in a horrific chorus. Second team, report. Vectar was on his feet now, crest fully erect. A different voice came through the static-laden channel, speaking with clinical precision. Target acquired. Brachial plexus strike. Subject experiencing full nerve activation, without structural damage. Immobilization achieved. The voice was human, young, male, and utterly devoid of emotion. Then silence again. All teams, fall back to the breach point, Vectar commanded. Regroup and advance together. But his remaining teams weren't responding. On the tactical display, the blue markers were blinking out one by one. Not destroyed. The life signs were still there, but they had stopped moving, stopped transmitting. Captain, his second officer's voice was tight with fear. We're receiving a transmission from the Nightingale. The view screen activated without Vectar's command. The human Lieutenant Commander Chen appeared again. Behind her, Vectar could see what looked like a medical bay. His warriors were there, alive, but writhing on the deck plates. And standing over them were humans in white uniforms, marked with red crosses. Your boarding parties have been neutralized, Chen said, still in that same calm, professional tone. They are currently experiencing what we call a brachial plexus disruption, combined with sciatic nerve stimulation, and in several cases, strategic solar plexus strikes that have temporarily paralyzed their respiratory functions while keeping them conscious. They're not in any mortal danger, but they are in considerable pain. Vectar stared at the screen. His warriors, elite raiders who had survived a dozen engagements, were helpless. The humans weren't even breathing hard. You're medics, he managed to say. You're supposed to heal. Chen tilted her head slightly. We are medics, combat medics specifically. Do you know what that means, Captain? Before Vectar could respond, she continued. It means we're Marines first. We're trained in infantry tactics, close quarters combat, weapons proficiency, and battlefield strategy. We can shoot, move, and communicate with the best special forces in the galaxy. She gestured to one of the humans behind her, a massive individual who looked like he could snap a Zendari in half. Corman Hayes. There was an orbital drop trooper before he went through medical training. He's inserted into hostile territory from low orbit 47 times. The large human Hayes gave a small wave. Chen wasn't finished. But we're also medics, which means we have intimate knowledge of xenobiology. We study anatomy, physiology, nervous systems, circulatory systems, pressure points, pain receptors. We know exactly where every species' nerve clusters are located. We know which strikes will cause maximum pain with minimum permanent damage. We know how to keep you conscious while your body screams for unconsciousness. She leaned forward slightly. We know how to hurt you in ways you didn't know were possible. And then we know exactly how to put you back together afterward. It's part of our training. Combat trauma surgery requires practice, and pirates who attack medical ships make excellent training subjects. Vectar felt his blood turn cold. The humans in the medical bay were moving among his crew now, and he could see them more clearly. They carried no weapons, but their hands moved with terrifying precision. A strike here, a pressure point there, and his warriors convulsed in agony. The humans made notes on datapads, discussing the physiological responses in calm, clinical voices. "The Zendari nervous system is fascinating," one of the humans was saying, loud enough for the transmission to pick up. "The dual chord arrangement means you can induce contradictory pain signals that create a feedback loop. They stay conscious through trauma that would knock out most species." Another human, this female with gray streaks in her dark hair, nodded as she examined a groaning raider. "Good for teaching advanced pain management and combat triage. Let's try a controlled compound fracture on this one. Tibia, I think. Clean break, 90-degree angle. Should heal perfectly with standard bone fusion." "No," Vectar whispered. "No, stop this." Chen heard him. "Stop. Captain, you attacked a protected medical vessel. You violated treaties that have stood for 200 years. Did you think there would be no consequences?" Her calm facade cracked slightly, and something dangerous gleamed in her eyes. "We're medics. We took an oath to preserve life. But we're also Marines, and we don't forget that our primary mission is to protect our patients and our ship. You threatened both." On the tactical display, Vectar could see more markers appearing. His remaining teams, the ones he'd held in reserve on his own ship, were reporting in frantically. The humans were coming through the docking umbilical. "Captain, they're boarding us," his weapons officer shouted. They're not armed, but they're—" The officer's voice dissolved into a scream. Chen turned slightly, listening to something off-screen. "My teams report your bridge crew is secure, Captain Vectar. No fatalities, though I understand your weapons officer is now intimately familiar with the Zendari adrenal gland and what happens when it receives direct stimulation. Quite educational." Vectar collapsed into his command throne. Through the bridge's viewport, he could see white-suited humans moving through his ship with mechanical efficiency. They weren't soldiers storming a fortress. They were clinicians making rounds, and his crew were the patients. "What do you want?" he asked, voice hollow. "What do we want?" Chen seemed to consider the question. "We want you to understand something fundamental, Captain. Every species in the galaxy has warriors. You have warriors. The Kleet have warriors. The Vryn have warriors. But humans? We have something different. We have people who are trained to kill and trained to heal, often the same person, sometimes in the same minute." She gestured to the medical boy behind her, where his warriors were being systematically immobilized and cataloged. "These are combat medics. They've charged through plasma fire to reach wounded Marines. They've performed surgery in collapsing trenches while artillery fell around them. They've carried wounded teammates for kilometers across hostile terrain. They don't give up. They don't surrender, and they absolutely will not allow harm to come to their ship or their mission." Chen's expression hardened. "You attacked a Red Cross ship. You know what that symbol means? It means no matter who you are, if you're injured, we'll save you. It means we go into the worst combat zones in the galaxy unarmed, except for our medical knowledge, and we pull the wounded out. It means we've treated enemy combatants right alongside our own people, because life is life." She stood up, and Vectar realized she was wearing a sidearm he hadn't noticed before. Every medic in the bay behind her was armed. "But it also means we're the angriest people you'll ever meet when someone threatens our ability to do that job. We're not frontline infantry. We're not pilots. We're the ones who put the broken pieces back together. And if you damage our tools, threaten our patients, or attack our ships. Her smile was cold. We become very creative in finding new ways to teach anatomy lessons. A human appeared at Vectar's side. He hadn't seen or heard the creature approach. The medic, a wiry individual with scars across their knuckles, held up a small medical scanner. "Captain Vectar," the human said conversationally, "your species has 3 hearts, correct? Primary, secondary, and tertiary, arranged in a triangular formation in the chest cavity. Fascinating redundancy system. Do you know what happens if someone applies precisely calibrated pressure to the nerve cluster between the primary and secondary hearts?" Vectar did not want to know. "You remain fully conscious," the human continued, "but experience the sensation of cardiac arrest without actual damage to the organs. It's exquisitely painful, I'm told. We rarely get to practice on Zendari specimens. Would you like to volunteer for our advanced trauma class?" "No," Vectar managed. "Please, no." Chen's voice came through the comm again. "Then, here's what's going to happen, Captain. We're going to treat your crew for the injuries we've inflicted. We're medics, after all. And we don't leave a job half-finished. They'll be uncomfortable for a while, but they'll heal completely. Then we're going to file a report with the Galactic Enforcement Division, and they'll be waiting for you at your next port of call." She paused. "But before we let you go, every single member of your crew is going to sit through a 6-hour presentation on the Galactic Medical Neutrality Accords, the history of the Red Cross symbol, and why attacking medical vessels is the single stupidest thing you can do in space. We've prepared a very comprehensive lecture. There will be a quiz." Vectar would have preferred the torture. "And, Captain," Chen's voice dropped lower, "spread the word. Tell every pirate, raider, and privateer in the sector. Tell them what happened here. Tell them about the human medics who aren't armed because they don't need weapons. Tell them that every human medical ship has a crew trained to cause agony in ways their enemies can't imagine, and then heal them perfectly afterward." The human beside Vectar had moved away, making notes on a datapad. Chen continued, "Tell them that we mark our ships with bright colors and symbols because we want to be seen. We want everyone to know we're medical vessels, not because we're weak, but because we want to give you a choice, a chance to do the right thing." Her eyes were hard as diamond now. "Tell them that if they ignore those symbols, if they attack anyway, they won't be facing doctors or nurses. They'll be facing Marines who know exactly how to make them regret every single decision that led to that moment." The transmission started to cut out, but Chen's final words came through clearly. "Tell them why you never, ever attack a human Red Cross ship." 3 hours later, Vectar's ship limped away from the Nightingale. His crew were all aboard, treated and released, though several were still whimpering. The cargo holds were empty, the humans having confiscated everything as evidence. Vectar himself had a datapad filled with citation codes, legal documents, and the reminder that his entire bridge crew had failed the medics quiz and would need to retake it at the Galactic Enforcement Facility. He pulled up the long-range scanner, looking for the safest route to the nearest port where they could surrender. Behind him, his second officer groaned as she shifted in her seat, still feeling the effects of what the humans called a median nerve strike. "Captain," she said quietly, "I've been monitoring the sector-wide communications. The story is already spreading." Vectar wasn't surprised. Bad news traveled fast in the underworld. "What are they saying?" "That there was a pirate crew foolish enough to attack a human medical ship. That the humans didn't kill anyone, but made them wish they had. That combat medics are the most dangerous humans in space because they're the only ones trained to cause pain as precisely as they cure it. She pulled up a message from another pirate crew they sometimes worked with. It was brief. "Is it true? About the medics? About what they did to you?" Vectar thought about his warriors, writhing in agony, while the humans calmly discussed nerve clusters and pain thresholds. He thought about the clinical precision with which they had dismantled his entire boarding operation without firing a shot. He thought about Lieutenant Commander Chen's cold smile and the promise that every injury would heal perfectly, which somehow made it worse. He typed a single word in response: "Yes." Then he added, "Spread the word. The Red Cross is sacred." The humans weren't lying about that. But not because it represents mercy. He paused, considering how to phrase it. Because it represents people who have mastered both life and death, and they've chosen to serve life. Threaten that choice, and you'll discover they're equally masterful at the alternative. His second officer read the message and shuddered. "Should we add anything else?" Vectar looked back at the Nightingale on the scanner. The medical frigate was already moving away, heading toward some distant emergency, its white hull and red crosses gleaming like a warning to anyone foolish enough to mistake mercy for weakness. "No," he said finally. "Let them learn the same way we did, if they're stupid enough." But deep down, Vecatier hoped no one would be that stupid. Once was enough. The Nightingale disappeared into the void, and with it went any illusions Vectar had about easy targets. Human medics had taught him a lesson more painful and more permanent than any wound. Some symbols he now understood were painted in bright colors, not because they represented weakness, but because they represented something far more terrifying. Competence, combined with the knowledge of exactly how much damage a body could survive, and the skills to explore that boundary with surgical precision. He would never attack a Red Cross ship again. No one would, if they had any sense at all.
Claim your seat at the apex.